Hey penguins, today we will be going over the 5 most powerful commands that are in Linux. Some of them may surprise you. Let's take a look. What do I mean by powerful? In order to understand what makes these commands powerful, let's understand what I mean by powerful itself. Powerful means that when used, it gives great benefits and makes what you are trying to accomplish in Linux a lot more efficient. Let's go over the top 5 most powerful Linux commands. Let's talk about the first command. We'll talk about man. What is man? Well, man is a filtering tool. It lets you dissect the command you want, gives an outline and a lot of detail on what that command does. Let's go ahead and take a look at the man command and see what that looks like. So man, let's man SSH. That is a very common command, so we'll go through it. SSH is an open SSH remote login client, and basically you can see that it has a description here. The description will explain what that command does. We won't go too far into that, but you can see here different options. You can pass these options, and when you pass those options, it'll do what it tells you it'll do. So if you want to, for instance, request SSH to go to background just before the command execution, you would just do the -f. How can you use man in an effective manner? Let's say you want to check out what cat does. So cat, as you know, is just to concatenate a file. You can type in cat, it'll read exactly what's in the file. But let's see what else it can do. So we can go into man. We can go into man here, cat, and it'll explain a little bit further what it does. So there's not a lot of options here, but this will help you out if you are confused on what a command does exactly. It'll help you go through all of that. So why is man so powerful? Well, you can know what a command is by using man, and you can tailor that command in different ways to effectively do what you want the command to do that it's capable of. It'll also help a lot with understanding what options you could pass through that command. We'll use the man command for the next powerful command, which I feel like is grep. So let's go ahead and man grep. So grep has a bunch of different names: grep, egrep, fgrep, rgrep. We won't go over the different types of grep for this video, but grep searches for patterns in each file. Patterns is one or more patterns separated by new line characters. And grep prints each line that matches a pattern. Typically, patterns should be quoted when grep is used in a shell command. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into grep. Let's say you want to ignore the case. So grep tends to only print out case sensitive patterns. So if it is all lowercase, you type it in, it's all capitalized, it won't show up in the grep. So let's say you want to not have grep distinguish between the uppercase and lowercase letters. You just want to do both. You would pass that -i option here. That ignores case distinctions and patterns and input data, so that characters that differ only in case match each other. So let's go ahead and talk about grep a little bit more. Okay. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a deep dive in the grep command. Let's go ahead and man grep. Let's see what happens. So in here, you can see definitely that there's a lot of options. What we're going to try here is we're going to go ahead and try the -i. The -i will ignore case, so it will ignore any case sensitive options. Let me show you exactly what that means. So let's go ahead and run cat. And in here, I should have a text file in my documents here. So let's go ahead and cat that file. And you'll see here, there's a bunch of things in that file. Now, let's go ahead and say, let's just look for, okay, let's just go ahead and say we want to just pull out the lines that have that man sudo in there. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can cat that please sub.txt, and let's go ahead and pipe that through grep. So we will go ahead and pipe grep, and then we'll use that -i that we were talking about earlier to ignore the case sensitive strings or case sensitive lines, and we'll just go ahead and in quotes put man sudo. Now let's see what happens when we hit enter here. Oh, look, you have please hit that like button, man sudo. Now this line was printed because that man sudo is there. Now you also see here, please hit that subscribe button, all lowercase man sudo. Now if we just did the grep command with that capital, that's what's going to show up. So without that -i, you will just see exactly what you type out. So again, with the I and without the I. So there you go. Let's go ahead and clear that up. Okay, so the next command that I want to talk about is the awk command. Now, awk can be kind of confusing at first. This is not going to be a deep dive into awk, but let's go ahead and talk about what that is exactly. So awk is a command similar to grep, but instead of filtering out by words, it formats what is shown. So let's run man awk, and let's go over what the command looks like. We'll type here man awk, just to get a little bit further information as to what awk does. So awk, pattern scanning and text processing language. This is an interpreter for the awk programming language. So the awk language is useful for manipulating data files, text retrieval, and processing for prototyping and experimenting with algorithms. Like I said, this is a very, very, very powerful command. We're not going to go too deep into it, but it is definitely something that you should at least know. So let's go ahead and talk about what exactly awk does. So okay, let's go ahead and run ifconfig grep inet. This will give you all those information regarding the inet tab. Now, let's see what happens when we run awk with that. So we'll go ahead and do ifconfig grep inet, and then we'll pass awk, and then in single quotes and curly brackets, let's go ahead and print $1, and then we'll close the brackets and close the quotes. Let's see what this gives us. So it gives us that first column. So you'll notice here, inet, inet 6, inet, inet 6, inet, inet 6. That's what that prints there. Let's say that's not really that helpful, right? So let's just pull out the IP addresses. So we could do the second column. What this will do is, there it goes. It'll show you the second column there. Very, very, very useful and very powerful for bash scripting once you get into that. So why is awk so powerful? Awk can take different commands that prints out tables or different strings and really makes it easier for you to digest. Awk can take a bunch of text and you can dissect it a little bit easier by printing out whatever section you want. So you can do that second. So the $2 will give you that second part there. $3 will give you the net mask, prefix len, broadcast, prefix len 64, and net mask again, and so on and so forth. It basically will print out the third chunk in each line. Okay, now let's talk about one of the most powerful commands that are out there, and that would be the sudo command. Sudo is probably the command that is most powerful. Maybe also su or su, whichever, which is pretty similar, but sudo I feel like is more powerful. So why is sudo more powerful? Well, it's simple. With sudo, as long as you have privileges, you can do escalated tasks. Let's take a deeper look into sudo and see what we can do. So let's go ahead and do sudo, and let's go ahead and do a deep dive further into sudo and see exactly why it's so powerful. Let's go ahead and just try and install something. Let's go ahead and try and install Flameshot. It's my favorite screen grab. Oh, So you see, I can't install it. It says here permission denied. Interesting. So let's run that sudo command, see if that'll help us. Okay, so it's gonna ask me for my password. Type that in and oh, look at that. It actually works. So yeah, sudo basically allows you to do escalated tasks. We'll let this run in the background here. But so sudo, when you run it, it overrides that permission denied, because some things you can install, like for instance, installing something that you're not sure where it was or what it is, you could be installing a virus, right? So you don't want to do that. So sudo basically allows you to run a command as a super user, or in Linux terms, a sudoer. So why is it so powerful? I think you can understand why. It basically allows you to do whatever you want on the computer, as long as you have permissions to do so. There's ways you could edit that. I'm not going to go into deep dive on that on this video, but let's go ahead and say, what is su? So su, let's go ahead and clear this out. So su, let's go ahead and do a man on that. Su is run a command with substitute user and group ID. So basically, let's say I don't have command access to run commands, but another user does. So let's go ahead and do a user add. Again, oh, we can't. Let's go ahead and try the sudo command again. Yay. All right. So it didn't ask me for a password because it is on a timer. So if I close out of the terminal and I go back in, I will be able to use sudo again, but it'll ask me for a password. This can be changed also. However, we're not going to go deep dive into that. So let's go ahead and run this again. And you see that it ran there. So that's good. So let's go ahead and run please sub. And we'll go ahead and see what that does. All right, let's go ahead and try this here. So let's go ahead and do su please sub. And we're just going to say maybe this has access to run ifconfig. Let's run ifconfig here. There we go. It'll run. Okay, now we hit exit here, and then we'll go right back to where we were. We're back on man sudo.vm. So next, let's talk about dmesg and journal control. So what exactly is dmesg? Let's say you're having issues with your Linux machine, and you want to see what the heck is going on. That's where you would use dmesg. There's going to be a lot of gibberish for some of you, but ignore that. This basically will go through and it'll be a syslog, a little bit more detailed syslog. It'll tell you exactly what's running, what device is running. It'll tell you where something is running. It'll tell you about drivers. It'll tell you everything that's going on and if there's any errors. So if you scroll down here, you'll see, oh, there's some errors here. VM host log, apparently it's not able to send. So if you're having issues, let's say you're wondering why your log message is not being sent, you would go to dmesg and you can kind of see what's going on and debug from there. Very, very, very useful debugging tool. Another useful one that's very similar is journal control. And it does a lot of things about the kernel and explains what kernel you're on, and there's a lot to this one as well. So again, we're not going to go deep dive into what everything is because there's a lot there. So that is the number 5 on most powerful commands. Just because of the fact that if you run dmesg and you run journal control, you can basically figure out what the heck is going on with your system. Okay, that concludes the top 5 most powerful tools and commands in Linux by my standards. So if you have any questions or would you like to know more about each of these commands, let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to smash that like button, and if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe. All right, you guys have a great day and keep on learning Linux.